Hello and welcome to the 2026 BISA conference. My name is Andy Hom. I'm one of the editors-in-chief of the Review of International Studies, and I'm very pleased to speak with Susy Williams this morning about her CPD paper prize-winning work, which will be featured later today at the BISA conference. Susy, thank you for joining us. Susy is a doctoral candidate at the University of York, and she works on fast fashion and migration issues and the politics thereof. Susy, could you tell us a little bit about your thesis work and your prize-winning paper?
Yeah, absolutely. My research is trying to understand why the exploitation of migrant workers in fast fashion manufacturing in the UK hasn't been addressed and is so persistent. And as part of that, I turned one of my chapters into a paper which is about the coloniality of exploitation. The paper kind of acts as a corrective to some dominant political discourses that were happening following the 2020 Boohoo scandal, which was kind of a scandal where workers in Leicester were found to be being paid less than half the national minimum wage, as little as £1 an hour, and also with very dangerous working conditions because it's during COVID, and health and safety concerns. But the kind of dominant political discourses that were circulating at the time repositioned the blame onto migrant workers themselves and drew on kind of like othering narratives of like backwardness. And so I kind of started to kind of dig into the archives of colonial fashion manufacturing and traced sweating from colonialism through industrialisation to neoliberal Britain. I kind of made the argument that sweating can't be attributed to the conditions of production in the Global South or Global South migrant workers, but more to sweating that originated through British colonialism. I guess I'm kind of also showing that exploitation in garment factoring really is global. It's not something that's just confined to top production companies in the Global South. I guess that's kind of my contribution to IR a little bit there, is showing that coloniality is also happening in the Global North.
That's great. Thank you. What brought you to that work in the first place? Or can you tell us a little bit about your journey into academia?
Yeah, so I guess I actually did an undergraduate degree in international relations, but I've always been interested in kind of historical and colonial issues and social justice work. So that kind of brought me into that. So I kind of focused more on the critical theories in IR, kind of feminist, postcolonial. After I had done my undergraduate research, I realised I really like researching. So I pursued it further. And I initially started my PhD kind of looking at the intersection between human and environmental exploitation in palm oil production in Indonesia. But I kind of felt that as a British person with citizen rights, and someone who's already involved in advocacy around garment worker rights, I could use my position to make the research more useful. So that's why I kind of ended up focusing on UK fast fashion. Yeah.
Great. You mentioned already the important contribution of the paper being that it shows that sweating is not just something that happens in the Global South. So I was going to ask you about your contribution, what you see the contribution of the paper to the discipline of IR as. Mm-hmm. Could you say where you think that fits in, and sort of more generally where the discipline is going in your view, or where it needs to go?
Yeah, so I think I was really interested in the literature in IR that's looked at coloniality. So I think the past 10 years there's been a bit more research around how there is a South in the North and that kind of idea. So I was following that line of thinking, but found that in the IR literature on the garment industry specifically, it was very often confined to the Global South context. So I guess that I kind of tried to combine those two literatures in IR and get them to speak to each other in a way to show that coloniality is a problem in this industry, in the Global North. So I think, hopefully that's my contribution to IR. And I think the way that the discipline is going, I think it's going in a more maybe critical direction, which I guess people are maybe finding it more convincing, these explanations of international politics that are coming from feminist or Marxist decolonial lenses. And yeah, I think that's a positive thing, because it's kind of drawing out these post-colonial entanglements that are still very much shaping the world and how we understand IR and the discipline itself. Yeah, hopefully I answered that question.
Of course, no, that's great. I mean, I was thinking about when we read your paper about some of the previous work in critical IR that's shown us that borders aren't where, they're not just the outside of the nation state. They exist all over, they kind of permeate, and in some ways I think your argument about sweating being, in kind of some of the places that most of us might be surprised to find them as really complementing and moving that forward.
Yeah, that's another part. Yeah, that's kind of the bringing the labour migration lens almost to a global international politics, because a lot of labour migration studies are quite national focused or domestically focused. So yeah, exactly, showing that borders aren't they're more dynamic than maybe we often think about it in dominant political discourse. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you have any advice for future authors, other early career researchers, and is there anything you would like for publishers like the Review of International Studies to know or to do differently to kind of aid in the publishing process early on?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of advice, I think what I've learned through doing my PhD and trying to write papers is to take your time with them, because especially in this current kind of time of going towards more neoliberal academia, I think there's obviously this kind of urgency culture a little bit of trying to just get research out, but to make it, well, the research that I'm trying to do is more kind of scholar activist, I guess. So in that sense, trying to make sure it's useful to the people that you're researching with takes more time anyway, but also thinking about the ideas and developing them takes a lot of time. So I think it's okay to take time rather than rushing and not comparing yourself to people who can do things quicker. Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of my advice, or what I kind of wish I knew at the beginning. And then the second part of your question was... Is
there anything that journals and publishers can do to assist early career researchers?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's kind of happening now anyway, where you're getting workshops and stuff to help people to know how to publish. I think having this mentoring through this prize has been really useful as well, so maybe more mentoring opportunities. I think quite a lot of conferences as well, so I helped to run a conference in York that's kind of targeted at early career researchers to make it a more friendly environment, so maybe a friendly space in a conference could be useful as well. But I think these things are already kind of being set up and happening. But I think, trying to make sure for early career researchers that their research is also having an impact on the people that we're talking about, all the issues that are impacting people, is also really important.
Excellent. Yeah. BISA's got a lot of those initiatives kind of already in train, but there's always more that could be done. It's to help demystify that process, I think. Thank you very much, Susy Williams from the University of York, and thank you all for listening.